Alright, so welcome to this summer's edition of Comparative Politics Online. My name is Dr. John Phillips, and I'll be teaching a class this term. Now, this video is going to try to do three things. It's going to explain what the course is about, explain how the material is going to be presented to you, and also try to give you a sense of how your performance is going to be assessed. So first, what's the course about? What is comparative politics? Comparative politics is best explained by contrasting it to international relations. Whereas international relations studies the interactions between states on the global stage, comparative politics tries to compare the domestic political institutions within each state. The hope, of course, is to gain insights about how other governments have tackled their problems and try to learn from their successes and their failures. The way I've tried to organize the course is to divide it into different problem areas, and then look at how countries have tackled these problems. So the first set of problems turns around this idea of how do you produce a stable order, which means how do you produce goods like security, right, law enforcement, contract enforcement, and other kinds of dispute resolution. Now the answer here has traditionally been set up a state. But states come in many flavors, and not every state succeeds in producing the basic prerequisites of a decent life. Other kinds of states work well at some times or in some places, but then prove themselves to be inadequate at other times and other places. Democracy is a regime type that seems very well suited to the modern era, but there are different kinds of democracies. And because there are different kinds of democracies, we're going to spend a lot of time looking at the variations between electoral systems. Now the problem addressed here is how do you translate votes, right, the votes that each of us have, into a distribution of political power, and then how do you divide political power between legislative, executive, and judiciary branches of government? How do you divide power between the United States, the President, Congress, and the Supreme Court? Another problem area is how do you deliver goods that everyone wants, but that markets have a hard time supplying in sufficient quantity? Goods like environmental quality, basic science, or protection against contagious diseases. These things are called public goods, and they frequently require government to employ technical experts, people we call bureaucrats, who, operating in bureaucracies, are going to be in charge of determining how these goods get delivered to the population at large. Another typical problem is going to be poverty alleviation and healthcare. Unsurprisingly, in addition to there being radically different levels of involvement in poverty relief and healthcare provision, states also differ in how they choose to take on the task, right? So the question is not so much about whether a government does a lot of poverty relief or does very little poverty relief. The question also becomes, how do they go about doing this task, right? How do they go about doing poverty relief? And we'll see that there's many different ways in which governments have chosen to take on this task. Markets are extraordinarily useful tools. They allocate goods and services rapidly and efficiently, but sometimes the sum of our voluntary market choices produces outcomes that nobody really wants or intends. And states differ in how much and how they regulate the marketplace. We're going to take a look at these different regulatory strategies and try to assess their different costs and benefits. Finally, many countries are culturally, religiously, and linguistically diverse, and we're going to look at the different ways in which states deal with tensions surrounding ethnic and religious diversity, right? What's the standard marriage contract? What language is going to be used in schools to educate the children? Which holidays and festivals are going to be observed, and so on and so forth. One way in particular in which countries have chosen to deal with this problem is called federalism. The United States has federalism. Now, our time in this course is limited, so we're not going to have time to really get to the bottom of every issue or address every kind of problem that the state undertakes to solve. My goal of the class is to give you a sense of the basic knowledge political scientists have accumulated and the major ways in which states can vary in how they carry out the basic functions of government. For more in-depth treatments of all these issues, I really do encourage you to take area studies classes in the political science department. For example, I teach European politics and Middle Eastern politics. Dr. Gregg teaches Russian politics. Dr. Kinney teaches Latin American politics and African politics. You have a lot of opportunity to really get into depth into an area and find out how governments in those areas have tackled all kinds of problems. This course, this is a general introduction to comparative politics, you might say, so it's a bit of a survey course. There's going to be a limit to how deep we can get. Finally, I told you I would address how your performance in the course will be evaluated. Now, first of all, I'm a really big believer in looking things up. When you don't know something, or when you want to learn something, one of the best ways to learn it is to go look it up. Therefore, one of your projects in the course is going to be to turn in a structured comparison between two countries. Essentially, this is going to be a paper that you're going to write comparing the systems of government in two countries and trying to highlight similarities and differences in how they attack the basic problems of translating, say, votes into political power, or providing public services, and so on and so forth. I'm going to provide a list of countries that I want you to compare, or options, shall we say, about which countries you can compare, and more detailed instructions and course files on D2L. I also believe in regular, low-stakes testing. Every day, or maybe every other day, you're going to have a short series of factual questions to answer on D2L, between, say, 5 and 10 questions, focusing on the reading material for that day. Now, these quizzes are totally open book and open note. They're just there to highlight some of the things that you should have gotten out of the reading and to make sure you're keeping up with all the material. So, to the extent that you're taking the quiz on time and that you have your book open, they shouldn't be too difficult. Now, I'm only going to let you take each quiz once, but these quizzes aren't designed to be too difficult. Finally, you will have a midterm and a final in this class. This is where I'm going to test your understanding of the big picture in the course. I'm going to ask you to apply some of the knowledge you got, demonstrate your comprehension of debates and all the explanations of the variation we see in the course. So that's where the difficulty comes in, I guess. Now, I'm not going to lie, I think it's fairly difficult to compress 14 weeks of work into 4 weeks online. You should really expect to be working several hours a day, every day, on this course, between reading, research, and test taking. That's kind of the price of an accelerated course, but if you do it right, I think you're likely to learn a lot, and you'll end up being very well prepared, I think, for any area studies courses you decide to take. So, thanks for listening to me. It's time to get started in the course.